Coming up on the Mobile Journalism Show.
Last year there was a strong sense, and a lot of people spoke about it afterwards, of it reaching the point where actually the quality had hit a landmark because it was now hitting 4K. It's evolved a little bit further, but that's not the big development. I think the really big development in the last 12 months, to be honest, which is not specific to Mojo, I think the real big development in the last 12 months is actually the onslaught on journalism as a business, or media as a business.
So today's topic revolves around Mojocon, the Mobile Journalism Conference in Ireland. It's 3 years in. What's changed and what can we expect this year?
Welcome to the Mobile Journalism Show. If you're a mobile journalist, marketer or creative who makes content on a mobile device or for mobile audiences, you're in the right place. Keeping you up to date with the fast-moving world of mobile, here's your host and mobile video specialist, Mark Egan.
I'm joined today from Dublin in Ireland by Glen Mulcahy, who's the founder of Mojocon. Glen, I have to say, for somebody who's got a big job like organise a conference on your hands, you're looking fairly well today. So welcome, thank you for sparing a bit of time. And first simple question is, this is the third Mojocon. Things have moved a long way since the first one. How have you approached putting on the third conference of its kind?
Well, I guess probably the biggest thing is to have spent a bit of time looking at the feedback forms from people, Mark, and trying to learn from what the delegates are telling us. I guess Mojocon started as a kind of a gut feeling almost 2 years ago. Well, actually, the idea was well over 3 years ago. And on the back of that, it was a case of trying to hard sell something that kind of hadn't been done, I guess, or hadn't been done in the same sort of way. So 3 years on, yeah, I've tried to change it up a bit. We've, like I say, kind of responded to feedback from delegates and made some fairly fundamental changes to the structure of the event. And we're continuing to develop that even further right now. So we're planning fringe events, so it becomes almost more like a festival than just a conference. So it will have a different vibe, I think, this time around. And also the emphasis has changed a bit. So last year, we tried to kind of combine video journalism as a kind of an element into the Mobile Journalism Conference, and we also tried to bring in drones and some of the other sort of technology that was starting to become, hot topics, if you like, within the production space. Some worked, some didn't work. So the things that don't work, we literally drop them like a wet rag and walk away and try something new. So it's constantly evolving. It's constantly trying new things. This year, the hot topic really is that migration that's happened into live streaming in 360. We had a session on 360 last year. We're going to combine the live streaming and 360 into one session this year, but there will be more workshops. I can say now, I'm reasonably confident anyway, Sennheiser are coming back as sponsors, which is phenomenal news for us, but they've agreed to do a workshop on spatial audio, which is one of those it's the missing trick almost in the true immersive experience of 360. So I'm really excited about that. And on top of that, we've tried to revisit, I guess, what's the core ethos, what's the idea behind Mojocon at the end of the day. And I mean, it's always been really built about this idea of bringing a community of people together to share experiences and to share their knowledge and to encourage other people if they're interested in the same space. And I guess one of the key gems that of information that I guess over the last two events has been, because of the nature of the event, because of the nature of the price of the tickets and everything, it's perceived as somewhat exclusive to people who are, industry professionals. And that is who it's targeted at. But at the same time, I mean, Mojo is not exclusive. In fact, if anything, it's the opposite. It's completely inclusive. So this year, one of the things that we're actually planning to do is to do fringe events. And the fringe events will be run with partner organizations in Galway, and they'll also be run on a not-for-profit basis. And that should give an opportunity to members of the public or to students who are interested in this space to be able to, dip into some of the gems of wisdom from the conference. It's not the same as getting a ticket to the entire event, admittedly, but nonetheless, it will give you, hopefully a really valuable and quite targeted experience, give you a taste of what's going on. And the other thing that we're kicking the tires on, though I haven't actually made a final decision on yet, is opening up the exhibition, possibly just on the last day to the public. So that they too, if they are genuinely interested, if they attended one of the fringe events, they'd have the chance to come along and maybe, buy or certainly try out some of the accessories that allow you to turn that into a far more creative and powerful production tool.
Yeah, the problem with your exhibit space is that I keep buying things. So you have 5-minute conversation with Arkham at Sennheiser. Next thing you know, got a clip mic digital. It's there's some great stuff there. But I want to come back to the Galway thing. So I know some parts of Ireland very well, places like Mayo, but Galway. What made you decide to move it from Dublin this year to Galway?
I'm still asking myself that question. No, I joke. So I have to tell you, like, there's a few different things. Part of it is very much a personal decision, but also part of it is it kind of, for RTE, you know, we've had a fairly substantial change in management in RTE. We have a new director general, new head of news, a new head of television, and there's a lot of discussion internally about, you know, how RTE serve our audience. And, you know, our audience is more than just Dublin. Our audience is the entire country, and in fact, it's the Irish diaspora and demographic around the world. So it seemed proper, I think, and just having done it in Dublin for the last 2 years, that we would look to basically move it into the regions, which are otherwise potentially underserved, let's say, in this space. Now, Galway is an incredibly beautiful and vibrant city. I speak with it with a lot of love because I spent 15 years of my life living there, and would probably move back there in a heartbeat if I had the chance, to be perfectly honest. But there's one innate quality about Galway that I think really, really makes it so different from Dublin. Whereas Dublin is a bustling capital, like many other capitals around Europe, Galway really has a very, very strong sense of community. There's a huge cultural community there. There's a fantastic musical, both the Irish language and all the traditions that go with that are all alive and well in Galway. And it's literally only in the last couple of months actually won the European Capital of Culture Award for 2020. So, I mean, it's working now towards that as a big event. So I'm really keen to kind of use the best parts of Galway to help to kind of bring that Mojo community even closer together. And I'll give you just one example. So for the last 2 years in Dublin, every time that the sessions end on the first day or the second day of the conference, people kind of scatter to the four winds all around Dublin to various different pubs and various different venues, which means that it can be a little bit cliquey, but ultimately the entire community just dissipates around the city. And, you know, I mean, that's normal, and many other conferences I've gone to, that's simply the way it happens. The beauty of Galway is because it's so much smaller than Dublin. Like the main street, the main thoroughfare, which is Shop Street down onto Market Street, has about 22 pubs on it. And you can walk from one end to the other end in about 5 minutes. Okay, so that really is, it's a city, but it's a city that still has a feel almost like a village. And our plan basically is to reach out to every one of those pubs and to try and encourage the vintners in all of those different pubs to put on events, which mean that, you know, within that sort of 5-10 minute walk, you're basically going to bump into other people from Mojocon, and it's inevitable that you will. So I'm hoping that that's going to, you know, really, really bring the community together. And then the other thing is, because the city is so small to walk around, the photo walks and the video walks that we've done in the past, I mean, you know, there's so many places in Galway you can literally just point a camera, and even if you have no skill in the world other than the ability to point and press the white button, you're probably likely to get a beautiful shot. So I'm really hoping that that aspect of it as well will grow. It'll be beneficial for Galway, but it'll also be a great opportunity for much more intimate groups of people to go out and do photo walks, rather than the herd, for want of a better word, of 80 plus people that descended onto a train last year, which was all kind of a bit chaotic and bedlam. So yeah, that's one of the core qualities. So it serves the kind of RTE remit to the regions, but I think that innate sense of community is really the thing that's going to shine through from Mojocon this time.
Of course, you do realise when I come to edit this, I'm going to have my questions saying, why did you decide to move to Galway? And then I'll just put that answer where you say, there is a street with 22 pubs on it, and just leave it at that, really. Now,
previously we've had 50 speakers, 20 workshops, blah, blah, blah. 22 pubs just needs to feature in it this time, and that should sell tickets, I think, actually. Yeah, I didn't think of that.
And talk to me about trains. Trains coming across.
So here's the thing. So, you know, there's 1.2 million people living in Dublin. That's a third of our population, effectively, and there is a genuine kind of concern, for want of a better word, that people won't bother going from Dublin down to Galway for the event. Now, I don't share that, because I think, you know, we've capped the seats at 500 this year, even though we had 700 delegates in the Aviva last year. Again, I'm hoping that again is going to kind of concentrate that community. But we did have a discussion about the practical aspects of 50 plus speakers coming into Dublin Airport. The vast majority of the international flights can't go to the West Coast. They can't go to Shannon or Knox, so they have to come to Dublin. And we were just thinking, like, what are we going to do? Will we book like 8 coaches and do a convoy of coaches going down to Galway? Because, you know, we'll have so many delegates potentially coming in that way as well. About 30+% of our audience is international. And then I kind of thought, well, wouldn't it be great if we could actually make it so that we could make it more than just a journey? It's 2 and a bit hours across the country. And I mean, there's some beautiful, you know, scenery and everything along the way. But at the end of the day, it's also 2 hours of valuable potential networking time. So we cottoned this idea of, could we hire a train, for want of a better word?
As you do. I mean, I do it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You know, kind of just call a guy and yeah, that's no problem. So we did. We kind of we made the arrangement with Irish Rail that we can basically take a 3-carriage exclusive train for delegates. We'll have the speakers on that train, and the idea basically is that whereas in the past I've done these everyday carry competitions in the months leading up to the conference, where basically once a week I give away some piece of sponsored gear. I'm not going to do that this year. I think 2 years of everyday carry, if you search the hashtag, you'll get all the pictures out there. I think that's been done. So this time, the idea is that we'll actually do competitions on the train, and each carriage will effectively compete. Each carriage will have a minimum of 4 mobile journalism trainers on board to basically kind of mentor people and show them some of the tips and tricks that they can do with their device. And from my point of view, and I mean, you know, like I've both spoken at and attended many conferences over the last 18 years in broadcast, whatever. I think that opportunity to sit down with someone and actually have a really frank discussion and get to know a group of people who you can kind of almost tip in and out of with for the next few days of the conference is a real great opportunity, because they can feel quite, you know, lonely, I guess, sometimes. I'm not a huge networking type person, and I just love that idea that you'll be forced into a train with other people, given a task, given a bit of support, and asked to do things with the chance of winning some stuff, but also in the process effectively almost like speed dating some of the other delegates. By the time you get to Galway, you should know at least 10 people, which hopefully will carry over into the pub conversations and everything else that comes with it.
The only thing with speed dating is if you don't fancy the other person, you're not locked on a train, so you can't get off. But I love the idea. I love the kind of, it sounds like you're trying to make it an experience, and like you say, the community rather than just another conference. And another thing, would you say that, you know, technology is a big part of mobile journalism, and it always will be, but the kind of lots of the discussions have moved beyond, you know, just the basics of how you get a good sort of video shot out of your phone, and onto more of the content and some of the issues and everything like that. How have you addressed that with your approach to Mojocon?
Over the last 2 years, we've had these dual strand approaches. Basically, after the keynote and after the first session, as a delegate, you then must choose strand A or strand B, and that's the way it is pretty much for the rest of the day. And one of the strong themes that came back in feedback forums from people is they felt that they were missing out. That they paid, you know, whatever is 300, 400, 500 euros for a ticket, but felt that they were effectively being deprived of half of the potential of the conference by having to choose room A or room B. So we've changed that this year. This year, we've added an extra day, but we've done away with the dual strand. So you still get access to 55 odd speakers, but we will have a separate staging area which will basically look at kind of people who are ambassadors, people who've actually done stuff with some of the technology. So there will be a room that will serve the kind of technology people who are really into the tech. But at the same time, you will have an opportunity to attend every single one of the sessions over the 2 main days of the plenaries. And the discussions, I think, last year, one of the themes I think that came out of Mojocon was that Mojo had kind of really started to mature. The first one, it was all bells and whistles. Oh my God, did you know you could do this? It was all excitement and new and fresh. Last year, there was a strong sense, and a lot of people spoke about it afterwards, of it reaching the point where actually the quality had hit a landmark, because it was now hitting 4K. The accessory market had hit the point where you had these big brands like, you know, Sennheiser and Shure and others making these extremely high quality products and accessories. So it had matured somewhat. And it's almost like, I'm not too sure that that evolution has taken a massive jump since it's evolved a little bit further, but that's not the big development. I think the really big development in the last 12 months, to be honest with you, is not specific to Mojo. I think the real big development in the last 12 months is actually the onslaught on journalism as a kind of as a business, or media as a business. So we've tried to both address some of the technical evolutions that have happened in the last 12 months. I've already mentioned Live 360 and all that sort of stuff. But we are going to, like at the very opening session is going to look at this idea of the death of journalism. And we'll have a very, very strong panel who will kind of put their pros and cons across about what's gone wrong and how you can fix it. Or what are we, you know, what can we learn from what's going on? And so there is going to be a focus back on to the core of kind of storytelling, which has always been the essential heart of Mojocon, visual storytelling and understanding what the real purpose and opportunity is, if you like, in Mojo. So yeah, it's diversified a little bit. And again, this time in the space that we have these kind of smaller breakout rooms where more intimate discussions and very, very focused discussions can take place. So, you know, not everyone out of the 500 plus delegates is going to want to necessarily talk about the intricacies of how you capture spatial 360 audio. People who can, though, can go to a briefing session with someone from Sennheiser to discuss that in its specifics. There's a lot of discussion going on in social media at the moment about the new version of Filmic Pro, which is due for release around the time of the conference, I guess. People might want to chat to the developers from Filmic Pro and talk about some of the nuances and the new features, which, if you looked at most recent messages from Mark Settle, he kind of thinks that may be too advanced for the average mobile journalist, but ideal for filmmakers. In many ways, you could argue that's what Filmic Pro's DNA effectively was. So I really want it to be, rather than just this kind of you only have one choice and that's it, there's loads of little choices. There's loads of opportunities to go off and kind of do little small setups. And as per last year, it started to happen organically. People started to just announce workshops organically at the event, which I love. I love the idea that people would just respond, see a need and go, we're going to do this. We'll announce it in the app. If you want to come along, pop into a room, whatever it is. So yeah, it's evolving and continuing to evolve.
And I suppose the converse of saying that, you know, you're talking about some of the issues around journalism is that mobile journalism has, as a term, has come to encompass things that are beyond journalism. So there's also an audience that are interested in, you know, Snapchat and marketing and all that. Are they catered for as well?
Well, I guess the fundamental thing is that the discussion has moved beyond just the technology and beyond all the gadgetry, also into this idea of, if you like, the onslaught on journalism and the broader discussion about the purpose and the future of media. So we've tried to encapsulate that into the conference, but we've also looked at the development of platforms like Snapchat, for instance. I'm sure there'll be discussion about Facebook in some capacity at the event. We're also using these fringe events that I mentioned a little bit earlier on. We're trying to sort of branch out into sessions that effectively will even expand beyond the core actual schedule. So we have a session that will now look at entrepreneurial spirit in the startup community. We're looking at native advertising and how people in the media can effectively use mobile journalism to create native content. And yeah, I mean, there's still room for growth and exploration in that area. And like I say, one of the things that happened last year was this idea of organic sessions kicking off. And I've actually this year deliberately provided space to facilitate those sorts of discussions. So I think it's fair to say it's growing and it's adapting, and it's not even fixed. Even the schedule as it is right now, and the schedule will be possibly subject to change and even have additional sessions closer to the day.
And one of the great things I like about conferences is you can see trends, and also you can assess like, oh, that's changed a lot. I mean, I was just recently at the this big education show they have at Excel. It's technology and education, BET, and I'd been there a few years before, and it's amazing how it had gone from, you know, projectors and the odd sort of tablet to, you know, there were drones, there was everything, virtual reality classrooms, and you see how things have moved on. With mobile, where are you seeing things sort of moving on the most? I mean, one of the things I've noticed is it used to be very iPhone based, and now we're hearing a lot more from people using sort of more Android, not so much Windows. Where are you seeing the kind of changes?
I kind of think that, well, the interesting evolution in the iOS space is the adoption that Apple has done for the dual lens system on the 7 Plus. But I mean, beyond that, there hasn't been any massive breakthrough, I don't think. I do think what is of interest that's happened in the last 12 months is Google's Pixel. I'm still in discussions with Google about whether they're going to come back to us this year. I'm really hoping they will, because they have so many different products that are relevant and pertinent to the audience. But I do think that Android has certainly made a very, very strong play to close the gap. I mean, it's the market leader when it comes to market share, but I think at the very, very high end of the market where Mojo exists most of the time, I think Android has actually lagged behind somewhat. But more and more we're seeing, like, even announcements from Samsung about the addition of the USB-C type connector. All this opens up the potential of made for Android program of accessories, which are all digital, which will be a direct rival for what happens with the Lightning connections for iPhone. So I think Android is going to be one to watch. And to serve that, you know, it's always been like the elephant in the room. There's always that kind of moment of awkwardness where you say, how many Android users in the room? And it's like 30, 40%, iPhone users 60+%. This year we're going to do a dedicated session detailing the discussion about which platform is best and why. I'm not too sure we'll necessarily come out at the end of it with an absolutely black and white answer, but certainly it's going to throw open the debate. And I think it'll be very interesting to look at the audience participation in that discussion.
And I know when it comes to speakers, you've got lots of people lined up and some that you haven't announced yet. Give us sort of one or two people that we can look forward to hearing from.
Well, so this year I've had a strategy. One, I've tried to make sure that we've been a little bit more balanced on the female panelist side, because, you know, for the last 2 years, I would argue, for various different reasons, we haven't had anywhere near 50-50 parity on female and male speakers. This year we have the first dedicated female panel. In fact, we may even have 2 full female panels, which I think it's a testimony to the evolution and the adoption within the female mobile journalism community, that there are more and more women coming to the fore. I think that's a great thing. At the same time, I've tried to make sure that we haven't had a lot of the same faces that we had last year. However, I've made a couple of exceptions from speakers from the very, very first conference. So one of the people who literally is just secured in the last 24 hours, but has not yet been announced, is Michael Rosenblum, who at the very first conference was first up after the keynote speaker, and I think it's fair to say left most of the audience's chins aghast and, and on the floor. I think is journalism dead will be the one that he's going to get his teeth into this time, and no doubt it will be very interesting to see how that conversation goes.
Yeah, he's not shy of expressing his opinions, so that should be interesting.
He absolutely is not. But he's a great conversation starter, and I think, to give him credit, like, he has a vision, he has a very strong opinion. Yes, he can be provocative, but actually I think there's room for provocation in this discussion.
Well, the other thing I would say about Michael Rosenblum, because obviously I go way back with him, because when I first learning as a video journalist, is I remember some of the things that he said that people literally laughed out loud. And one, I remember being in a BBC office, and he said that people out there will start making video content, and they will become your competition. It won't be the other channel, it will be those people out there. And literally people were laughing. What people in the houses over there are going to be making content people would want to watch instead of us. So he's always got interesting ideas about where things are going.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been quite vocal about the whole Trump fake news debate and everything, even on Facebook, I think, over the last couple of months. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see his perspective on that. Now, I think also the discussion needs to be balanced. So, we want to make sure that we have people up to are very much pro-media, and I have a justified opinion for that as well. Equally, I think we've tried to, as we've done in other years, I tend not to just scour the circuit for speakers who are popping up at all the other conferences. I'm looking for stories at the end of the day. So sometimes it's someone who's never spoken on stage before. It can be a punt. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it's great to give people that opportunity to share. And some people like that who may not perform or may not feel comfortable in front of 500 people, when you get them on the one-to-one, they really, really open up, and that's where the great discussions happen. So, I mean, there's a good mixture in there again. There's new faces, there's faces that won't be familiar to lots of people, but they're also stalwarts who, are very, very good and actually can really manage the stage. And I have a few tricks up my sleeve that I don't want to reveal just yet, Mark, but suffice to say there will be a few interesting and perhaps unexpected names announced in the coming weeks.
Now, if somebody's listening to you and they haven't signed up already, or they want to know more, what would you advise?
Okay, well, I fully appreciate having been both a speaker and also attendee at conferences, mostly around Europe, but sometimes around the world as well, that there's myriads to choose from. Inversely, what I would say is at the very, very heart of Mojocon, when we founded originally, the idea was to bring the community, people who are doing this stuff really, really well, to bring them together so they could share their knowledge. That was at the very, very heart of the event. The secondary part of that was then to bring the people who were making the accessories and all the other stuff that made it as good as it could possibly be into the conversation, so that we could feed back what worked, what didn't work, what might be really, really good as a future development path. And then the last bit is to formally offer people the opportunity to share knowledge and to learn from each other. So it was a kind of a three-strand approach. It was the plenary to kind of give you inspiration. It was the exhibition to give you access to the actual people that make all these accessories that allow you to turn your phone into a full-fledged production tool, and then it was the opportunity to take away some of the learning. I think it has evolved even one step beyond that now, because even on Facebook we have this growing community of people who are very, very interested in mobile journalism, over 2,000 members now. So what Mojocon has, which lots of conferences perhaps otherwise don't have, is that there's a very, very strong identity and a very, very strong community behind it. And everything that comes to the conferences has been true the last two, and I fully expect it will be as good, if not even better, this time. Everyone is really invested in this. They believe in it, they see the potential in it, and they're passionate about it, and they're willing to share that knowledge. So if you come to it as a novice, there's a real opportunity to learn. Not just sit there and take notes and walk away with your kind of 3 takeaways, but to actually learn valuable skills that you can take back to wherever you come from and put them into practice, pretty much hit the ground running. So that's a huge takeaway. The other thing I'd say, which is RTE, when they finally accepted that we should and will run this conference, they decided that they would not do it as a kind of a commercial activity, that they would do it as a not-for-profit. So RTE doesn't seek to make money out of this event. Basically, this event simply pays for itself, and RTE is the facilitator. So sometimes people look at the prices and think, €500 for 3 days, it seems very expensive on top of flights and accommodation and everything. Our tickets are actually very competitively priced compared to a lot of the actual other media and journalism events around Europe, because many of those are for profit. And at the same time, I think the evening entertainment, the fringe events and everything else is going to make this more of an even festival than just a traditional conference. So there'll be a real strong opportunity in the evenings to actually network with people and make new friends. And if you're a member of the Mojocon group on Facebook, you'll realize how passionate that community is and how good they are at sharing knowledge. I mean, I used to use loads of different RSS feeds every single day to look at all the new technical solutions that were coming on the market and everything. I haven't looked at that stuff in months and months and months, because in fact, every single day there are 2,000 plus people around the world crowdsourcing the best apps and the best accessories and the best examples of Mojo from around the world. So I mean, you know, it's a community. You come to Mojocon, you become a member of the Mojo community.
Well, I can certainly vouch for that. I'm really looking forward to it. If people want to find out more about you or the conference, where do they go?
So the tickets are available now on our website, mojocon.rte.ie. And just a little tiny tip, so we'll be doing a special discount rate again on Valentine's Day. So if you're on the fence and you don't want to spend the full $4.99, then keep an eye on our Facebook page and on our Twitter page for that discount code on Valentine's Day.
Okay, so discount on Valentine's Day. Look out for that. Thank you very much for your time, Glenn. Always a pleasure. And
Sure.
I'm sure I'll have you on again at some point. But stay in touch, and I'll keep an eye out for all the new announcements that you keep hiding from me.
Appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon.
If you like this podcast, don't forget to subscribe. And we'd love it if you would leave a review on iTunes or Stitcher. To get in touch with Mark, go to www.purplebridgemedia.com or tweet him at Mark Egan Video.